Imagine a world created by an all-powerful, all-knowing, perfectly good God. Now imagine that same world filled with suffering, disease, and natural disasters. This is the problem of evil, and it's been challenging believers and philosophers for thousands of years. Today, we're going to explore every major argument, counterargument, and response in this debate. By the end, you'll understand why this remains one of philosophy's most difficult questions. Let's dive in. The logical problem of evil claims that God and evil cannot both exist. Here's the reasoning. If God is all-powerful, he can prevent any evil. If God is all-knowing, he knows about every evil that occurs. If God is perfectly good, he wants to prevent evil. But evil exists. This seems like a logical contradiction. Either God cannot prevent evil, which means he's not all-powerful, or he doesn't know about it, which means he's not all-knowing, or he doesn't want to prevent it, which means he's not perfectly good. This is called the Epicurean Paradox, named after the ancient Greek philosopher. Mackie famously argued in 1962 that these properties are logically inconsistent with the existence of evil. But here's where it gets interesting. Alvin Plantinga offered what's called the free will defense. He argued that God could create beings with genuine free will, but he cannot determine how they use that freedom. Think of it this way. A world with free beings who sometimes choose evil might be more valuable than a world of robots programmed to always do good. The evil that results from free choices isn't God's fault. It's the fault of the free agents who choose wrongly. Plantinga showed that this is at least logically possible, which defeats the claim that God and evil are logically incompatible. Most philosophers today accept that Plantinga solved the logical problem of evil. But wait, what about natural evil? Earthquakes, diseases, tsunamis. These aren't caused by human free will. This is where William Rowe enters the debate. He presents the case of a fawn trapped in a forest fire, suffering for days before dying. No human caused this. No greater good seems to come from it. This is gratuitous suffering, evil that serves no purpose. If God is all good, why would he allow such pointless pain? The free will defense doesn't help here because natural disasters aren't results of human choices. This shifts the debate from logical impossibility to evidential probability. To respond to both moral and natural evil, philosophers develop theodicies. A theodicy doesn't just say evil is possible with God, it explains why God would permit evil. Let's examine the three major theodicies that have shaped this debate for centuries. First, the soul-making theodicy. Developed by Irenaeus in the 2nd century and refined by John Hick in the 20th century, this view says that God created an imperfect world intentionally. Why? Because struggle develops virtue. You can't have courage without danger. You can't have compassion without suffering. You can't grow morally in a paradise where nothing goes wrong. This world is like a training ground where souls develop and mature. The suffering we experience serves a higher purpose. It makes us better people. Evil is the necessary cost of moral and spiritual growth. Second, the greater good theodicy. This argues that some goods can only exist if certain evils exist. For example, forgiveness requires wrongdoing. Mercy requires suffering. Bravery requires danger. God permits evil because it enables greater goods that outweigh the evil. Think of it like a painting. Up close, you see dark brush strokes that seem ugly. But step back, and those dark parts create contrast that makes the whole painting beautiful. We can't see God's full plan, but from his perspective, the overall good justifies the temporary evil. Third, the punishment theodicy. This is the oldest response, found in the Hebrew Bible and early Christian thought. It claims that evil is punishment for sin. Humanity chose to rebel against God, and suffering is the just consequence. This explains moral evil directly. Humans cause it through sin. It also explains natural evil. The entire creation is corrupted because of human fall from grace. However, this theodicy struggles with innocent suffering. Why do children get cancer? Why do good people suffer more than evil people sometimes? These questions led many philosophers to reject the punishment theodicy as insufficient. Even if theodicies make God and evil logically compatible, there's still the evidential problem. This doesn't claim God is impossible, just improbable given the amount and type of evil we observe. William Rowe argues that while some evil might serve a purpose, The sheer scale of suffering seems excessive. Think about it. If God needed some evil for soul-making or greater goods, couldn't he achieve that with less suffering? Why childhood leukemia? Why the Holocaust? Why devastating earthquakes that kill hundreds of thousands? The quantity and intensity of evil in our world seems far more than what any theodicy requires. This makes God's existence unlikely, even if not impossible. Defenders of theism respond with skeptical theism. This argument says humans are cognitively limited. We cannot understand all of God's reasons. Just as a child can't understand why a parent allows painful medical procedures, we can't grasp God's full reasoning. The fact that we can't see a good reason for suffering doesn't mean no reason exists. God's knowledge infinitely exceeds ours. What seems gratuitous to us might serve purposes beyond our comprehension. Critics reply that this makes God's goodness mysterious and untestable. If we can't judge whether suffering is excessive, how can we affirm God is good at all? So where does this leave us? Most philosophers agree the logical problem of evil has been solved. God and evil are not logically contradictory, but the evidential problem remains hotly debated. Theodicies attempt to explain why God permits evil, while skeptical theism questions whether we can evaluate God's reasons at all. The problem of evil continues to challenge believers and shape debates in philosophy of religion. What's your take? Does the existence of suffering make God improbable? Or are we simply limited in understanding a bigger picture? These are questions humanity has wrestled with for millennia, and likely will for millennia more. Thanks for watching.